Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 6 of the card making countdown, where I'm showing you 14 brand new card making ideas in 14 days. Now you might be thinking from what I'm showing you here, what is that? Well, this is a Mirage card, and it's called that because the image doesn't quite make sense when you look at it from the front, but as you tilt the card, you get one picture showing on the right-hand side, and then another picture showing on the left-hand side. So we've got it looking a little bit weird, but as the recipient of your card plays about with it and turns it round, those two different pictures magically come into view. You can use any images or photographs you want to make this card. I'll show you how to do that and how to cut them up to make the effect. Because this card is very thick with how it makes the concertina effect, it will look best in a presentation box rather than an envelope. For some free presentation box SVGs, as well as full tutorials on how to make them and how to size them so that your card will fit, head to the schedule page for the card making countdown, look in the foundation learning section near the top of the page, and there's a link to a separate tutorial in there on how to make presentation boxes. I'll also drop the link to that other tutorial in the description of this video. But for now, let's find where to get the free templates for today's Mirage card and then see how to make it. Let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the card making countdown at craftwithsarah.com/cards25. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/cards25 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the card making countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Before I jump into the tutorial, I just want to explain a few differences that you're going to see on the version of the files that you have compared to the ones that you'll see in the video that I have recorded for you. In my recorded video, you'll see these two pieces in red. However, when you load the SVG files into Design Space, yours will show in white, not red. That's because I realised that these need to be cut from white card because they're all going to be completely covered by our printed images. There's no point in using coloured card when it's all going to be covered up, so white card works just well and it's usually a little bit cheaper. So I've changed them in your version of the template so our screens will look a bit different. I'm just giving you that fair warning now. So yours, when you load the SVG, will look like this, with those in white. I'll explain that later on in this video when I get to the point where I realise that white makes more sense for this particular type of design, but I just wanted to give you a heads up at the start so you don't get confused why it looks different. Don't worry, it still cuts exactly the same. I'm just trying to make sure you don't accidentally waste any of your coloured card stock when plain old white card is just fine. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, then press Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the files on your computer or drag and drop them in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder and within there go into the subfolder called Cutting Machine Versions. This has all the different file types that come with the download. For Design Space, you want the ones in the SVG files folder. From there, we've got two templates, one that's rectangular and one that's square. They both work in exactly the same way. For this video, I'll show you the rectangular one. Click and drag that in, and it will look like this. Press Continue, and then Upload, and then it will insert onto your canvas. The rectangular design should load in at 15 inches wide and 18 inches tall. That's the size of everything together on the screen. If yours is different, change it to match. Before we start adding our pictures and getting them cut into the strips that we need to make the Mirage card, let's add a score line to the base card. If you don't have a scoring wheel or stylus, you can skip this step. First, click the design and ungroup the layers by pressing the ungroup button at the top of the layers panel. Then go into shapes and choose a score line. Make it the same width as the base card, which is 7 inches. With the score line selected, rotate it 90 degrees using the rotate box at the top of the screen. Type in 90, then press return on your keyboard. Then drag a box that touches the base card and the score line. You see I've just got those two layers selected, and you can tell that in the layers panel too. Then press Align Center to put the score line exactly in the middle. With those two layers still selected, press Attach at the bottom of the layers panel. Attach is what tells the Cricut that we want it to do the scoring in the middle of that card. Then let's have a look at the rest of the things in this template. We've got a frame here which will go over the Mirage effect topper once it's stuck on. This helps hold everything in place. So this will be cut from a coloured piece of card that matches the colours that you use in your photos or graphics. The base card isn't actually seen on the front at all, apart from the tiniest bit if you just happen to look under the topper. So I'm going to do mine in white because it'll be easiest to write the message on the inside if the card's white. Looking down, we've got two orange rectangles. This is what we're going to use as the templates for adding our photos or images. Then there are two red pieces. These are going to be stuck together to make the concertina effect for the main template of the Mirage topper. The vertical lines down these need to be changed to score lines too. To do that, open up the arrow next to one of the red layers in the layers panel. This contains two layers. We've got the red rectangle on the bottom and then all of the vertical lines on top. Click on the vertical lines. Then in the operations menu, change it to score. If you don't have a scoring wheel or stylus, you could change it to draw instead and have the Cricut draw all those lines on with a pen, and then you could manually score them all. However, I am going to be using a scoring tool. And then whether you're scoring or drawing, you need to attach those two layers together. So click it to select them both. Make sure in the layers panel you've only got those two bits selected and press attach. Then do the same for the other red piece. Click the arrow next to it in the layers panel. Click just the vertical lines. Change it to score if you've got a scoring tool or draw if not. Click it again and attach. Now it's time for the fun part, which is to choose our images. You can use whatever photos or graphics you want. I'm going to find some on creativefabrica.com. The images work best if you use ones that are going to fill the space with colour, so photographs are amazing, or full graphics with backgrounds. A little trick on Creative Fabrica to find graphics that work well is to search for mousepad. This will give graphics that have been sized to fit on a sublimation mousepad. Now, we're not doing sublimation, so don't you worry about that, but it does give us lots of rectangular images with pretty backgrounds, so that is kind of a nice way to search for images that would look really nice in these Mirage cards. Or you could just be a little bit more specific. For example, we could search for Shih Tzu and see what it comes up with. The dogs on their own probably aren't going to work very well because there's not a lot of background going in, so some bits on your Mirage will be just empty. Ones like this would work better because you've got more of a background. That's a lovely little picture. You can help filter to more suitable images by clicking the graphics icon in the list on the left. And then you can also search by illustrations and also backgrounds, and that will help filter them down as well. It might take a little while to find the perfect image, but keep with it and eventually you'll find the one that calls out to you. I'm going to use this set, which is called Butterfly Mousepad Sublimation Bundle. You need to choose 2 images in total, one for each side of the Mirage topper. I found from testing that it works best if you've got quite different colours in each of the image that you find. It helps the eye to distinguish the images better when you're looking at it from the left and the right, if there are different colours for your eyes to pick out in each of the pictures. If they're both the same, it can be a little bit harder for your eyes to train themselves to just focus on the one image at a time. I thought this would be a good collection to use because it's got lots of similar images in that they're all butterflies with this lovely kind of tropical leaf and flower background, but lots of them are all in different colours, so I can choose two that still look different in terms of their colour scheme, even if the actual picture on them is still that kind of butterfly and flower vibe. When you've chosen your images, download them and unzip the folder. Then head back to Design Space. Now we need to upload the graphics into Design Space. So press Upload and then Upload Image. And again, either drag the file in or press Browse to find it on your computer. I'll drag and drop this in, and you might get a message saying that it's a large image, and if that's the case, it may be a little bit slow to load, so just bear with it, especially if you're on a bit of a slower computer. When it's loaded, you'll end up with this, something like this. Press Continue. And now your screen will look a little bit different to how it looks when you're uploading a normal SVG, and that's because this is a print and cut image. We'll be printing it on our home printer and then having the Cricut cut it into strips to go on the Mirage topper. Don't change anything on this screen, just press Apply and Continue. It's okay if the graphic you've chosen has got some transparent bits in the background. I'll show you how to fix that in a moment. Click Flat Graphic as the option, which is the third one along in the list, and then press Continue. You don't need to change anything on this screen, press Upload. Again, depending on the size of the image you've chosen, this might take a little while for it to load onto your canvas. And you'll probably find when it does come in that it's very, very big. And to prove my point, here we go. This is loaded in at almost 20 inches wide. Let's just make it a little smaller. We'll go for 9 inches wide. You might find that you get a red exclamation mark next to your print then cut picture in the layers panel. At the moment, it's telling me my image is too large for print then cut. That's fine because we're going to be cutting it much smaller to fit the same size as these rectangles, so don't worry if it's too big now. You might also see an exclamation mark that says that your resolution is too low and it will result in a poor quality print. That error seems to appear no matter what you upload, even if it is absolutely amazing quality, so my top tip is just to ignore that. It'll print fine. Okay, so we need to size our image to match one of these rectangles and make it so that whatever shows in this rectangle is going to be a nice, pretty, filled-in area of the picture. So what I'll do is open up the mini group, click on the orange layer, just the orange one, and duplicate it with the duplicate button at the top of the layers panel. And that makes a copy. Under the operations drop-down, change it to a guide. That changes it so it's now a pink outline. And that means we can position it over the print then cut image and then resize the image around it. This is really important. Do not resize that rectangle. You need that rectangle to remain at 5.5 by 3.5. What we're resizing instead is the graphic underneath until we're happy with what's showing up inside that little pink rectangle. It's a shame there's no way to make the pink outline thicker or more obvious. It's very subtle, as you can see, but it is just about there so that we can get a good idea. And what I'm aiming for is to have as much of the rectangle as possible filled in with colour. We'll be cutting this into lots of little strips, and ideally we want all of those strips to be filled with lots of colourful parts. So that's looking good to me. Drag a box to select both of those layers, and then down the bottom of the layers panel, press Slice. That will cut the guide out of the picture. So now I can get the guide, and I'll move it over to one side for now because I can use that again in a moment to do the second image. Then if you click around the edge, you see we've now got the rectangle cut out of the picture. I don't need that one anymore, so I'll go ahead and delete it. And then this is my first one. You see most of that rectangle is really colourful, so it's going to look great when it's cut into the individual strips. And now we need to position it onto here. So first I'll click this mini group and ungroup it. Then change the bottom layer, currently showing as orange, to white. The reason we're changing this to white is that it will sit underneath our coloured picture, and if there were any little transparent parts that the Cricut would try and cut out, we're instead going to fill it with that white. So when it's cut, it will just go around the edge and then down all of the vertical lines. Move the rectangle down here. Select both of them, just the picture and the rectangle, and go Align Center. That's to put the picture exactly on top of the white. Then with those layers both still selected, press Flatten. And now that's joined them together into one. We now need to put the cut lines back on. Select the cut lines and press Arrange, Bring to Front to move them on top of the picture. Then drag around both of them and go Align Center. That will perfectly position those cut lines. With your printable picture and those cut lines still selected, press Attach to join them together. Now the Cricut knows that we want it to print out this and then cut around the edge and then cut it into all of those strips down the middle. Now if I lost you along the way with any of that, don't worry, I'm going to do it again for the other picture. I've already uploaded this one, so I'll just look in my recent uploads and choose the other one. So remember what I was saying about choosing different colours from your second image? That's what I've done with this one. My butterflies have got a blue with a little bit of pink instead of the peacock style butterflies that I used on this one. So once again, get that guide layer, you should still have it, and position it over the picture wherever you want it to go. If you can't see the guideline, it probably means that it's underneath your picture in the Layers panel. So you can click the picture and go Arrange Center Back to move it underneath. And it is showing up there now, it's just very subtle. Okay, so position that until I'm happy with what's showing. It's a shame there's all of that empty space in the top. I think it'll be okay just with a little bit of white. Remember, don't resize the rectangle, only resize the printed image underneath. Drag a box around both of those and press Slice. Now you can delete the guideline by pressing the trash can, we won't need it again, and then click and drag around your outside and delete. And then we'll move this up next to the remaining orange. Click on the orange, ungroup the layers, click on just that orange rectangle and change it to white. Move those lines out the way for now. Select the white rectangle and your printable and press Align Center to put them one on top of the other. If your white rectangle is showing above the image, click it and then go Arrange Center Back to move it underneath the picture. Then with those two still selected, press Flatten to join them into one. Flatten, as a reminder, is going to tell the Cricut we only want it to cut around the rectangle, not to cut out any little transparent bits that might be appearing in your picture. Click on those vertical cut lines and go Arrange, Bring to Front. Then drag a box around the printed picture and the cut lines, press Align Center, and then Attach. So that's both of those now ready, and now my design would be ready to cut out. Now I've done these in red just to make them obvious what they are, but actually I'm going to cut them from white. They're not going to be seen at all. I didn't mean to move that. They're not going to be seen at all because it'll be covered up by our printed picture. So I'll change them to white. You can cut them from whatever colour you want, but white makes sense. And actually what I think I might do is change it in the template so that when you load it in, it'll load in as white rather than red. There's no point in accidentally cutting it in a different colour when it's not going to be seen at all. So yes, I will do that, and then I will and a little note at the beginning to say about that. It's funny how sometimes you don't realise things, even though we've test cut this and practiced it, until you're recording a video, sometimes things don't become obvious. Okay, then this one will be done from colour, and this will be what sits over the top. And I think a kind of deep pink is what I'm going to go for. I might change my mind once I've seen how they look printed, but I think I'm happy with that. Now we've finished formatting everything, let's give it a save, because it would be awful if we lost all of this work. Press save and then give it a name and save. And then when you're happy with how it's all looking, press make to begin the cut process. You'll notice your layer with your images is a print then cut image, and it looks like this with the border around the edge. If you haven't done print then cut with your Cricut for a while, you might notice the steps look a little bit different now on the screen. They have done some updates to it recently to make the process a little bit easier to understand. However, it pretty much still works the same, so if you've done print then cut before, it is still kind of the same now. The rest of the pieces will all be cut from cardstock. You can change the paper size in the drop down if you want to, and I'll be using A4 for mine, and you will need to do that for every single colour that we've got. There aren't very many for this card because most of the colour comes from the printed image. Now, I can't actually print from the computer that I use to do my video recording because that's at home, and my printer is in my studio, which is a few miles drive away, that I cannot do video recording on. So what I did was I printed these out earlier when I was in the studio, and I took some screenshots of all the different steps for the print then cut. So I'll show you those pictures now and talk you through a few important things to select when doing the print then cut process. When you start the cut process, there'll be an option that says Send to Printer on a green button. Click that and it will open up the print settings. You might see a message telling you that sensor marks have been added. This is part of those new updates to the print then cut process I was just talking about. You don't need to do anything on here, just press Next. If you don't want to see this message every time you do a print then cut, tick the box where it says Don't show this again. Then you'll see the print setup box. Now this part is important. Choose the correct printer in the drop down, and where it says add bleed, turn that on. So toggle it so that you show the green as in my image. Bleed adds a little bit of extra colour around all of the edges, and it means that if your print and cut was slightly off and it didn't quite cut right, you won't end up with white edges of cardstock along the sides. It will still be printed and pretty. Also, make sure you turn Use System Dialog on. That means after you click the print button, it will open up your printer settings so that you can make sure you're printing on the best quality. So this is loaded at my printer box where I can then go and click the Preferences button to open the settings. This box will look a little bit different depending on what type of computer you've got and what type of printer you've got. So if yours looks different to mine, don't worry, just try and find where to open your printer settings, where you can change the paper type and also the quality. For me, that's clicking the Preferences button. Here are my printing preferences. Under media type, I've changed it to glossy photo paper, which is the type of paper I'm using. You can also use matte photo paper if you prefer, or lightweight cardstock. And then if there's an option on there for print quality, which mine does have, change it to high. Whatever the highest setting is, or the best setting in there, or top quality, however it describes it, whichever one you think sounds like it's going to be the best option, as in the highest quality option, go for that. For me, that's the option called High under Print Quality. Then hit OK and print, and we're ready to go. After you've sent your document to print, you'll then get this box. Again, this is something a little bit new. It says Verify Print Quality, and it gives you some steps on there to make sure it's printed exactly as it should. You might find when you're doing your print then cut or before you start, you get a pop-up appear asking you to calibrate your cutting machine. It's up to you if you decide to follow that process through or not. If you've not done print then cut for a long time, it is kind of a good idea to get your machine calibrated for the best possible quality cut. If you decide to do the calibration process, it tells you everything you need to know on the screen. I haven't recorded that separately, but the steps are really self-explanatory and it's easy to do. It does take a little while though, so if you're in a bit of a rush, you might want to skip that step. Full disclosure, I did skip the calibration and mine cut fine, but I could have just been lucky. Who knows? Alright, so go ahead, get that printed, and then follow all the other steps to get the other pieces cut from cardstock, and then we'll see how to put together our Mirage cards. One thing to note though, don't panic when it cuts your images into lots of teeny tiny strips. That is exactly what we want it to do, so that's what we're aiming for. Almost like we're making little jigsaw puzzles out of each of those printed images. I've now got all the pieces of my Mirage card cut out, and you'll see once you cut it that the pictures cut into all of these little strips. So first things first, get your best jigsaw brain on and put all the pieces in the correct order in front of you. So I've got my first picture here and the second one just off camera here. Next up, we'll put together the accordion that makes up the middle bit, where we'll stick all of the little rectangles of the design to. You'll have two different bits of card cut out. One of them is longer than the other, so when you put them next to each other, one's a little bit longer. The longer one is the one we're going to use first. So bring that out, and it's got all those score lines on it. And the score lines on this one, your very end bit here, and the very end one here, up to those first score lines, these are the same width. So that's another way that you know you've got the right one. So this one and this one are the same, and they're actually a little bit thinner than all the other ones in the middle. Whereas the shorter piece, the one we don't need just yet, it's got one thin one and then one thicker one up to those first score lines. All right, so what we're going to do on the one that's got that same little thinner rectangle on both sides is to add glue down one of them. The glue I'm using is Barely Art glue, but I also like Halal, and I like these glues because they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. So what we'll do is put the glue down up into the first score line. Don't go over the score line. And in fact, I'm not going to go quite up to the score line because the glue will probably smush out a little bit when I stick the next bit on top. So I've gone almost up to that score line. As you can see, I'm not sure it's picking up the score lines on my camera, but hopefully you can at least see the glue. Then take the other piece and look for the side that's got the thicker rectangle on the end. So my rectangle here is thicker than the one on this side. The thicker one is what you want to stick on top of the glue. So I'm going to stick this over, line it up against the score line. So essentially we're joining these two pieces together to make one long thin piece. And that's what we've ended up with. Next up, wait for the glue to dry completely, because if you start folding this up now to make the accordion shape, your glue will probably move things about and it won't end up quite straight. So I'm going to leave this for a little minute and then come back when it's dry. Now my glue's dry, I can start folding. Position it so that the side that's been scored on is facing upwards. My score lines are really faint, so this is going to be a little tricky, I think. You could always go down them again with a manual scoring tool if you wanted to. Take the left side, it doesn't matter which way around you do it, but whichever one you've got on the left, and we're going to valley fold along that first score line, which means the point of the fold will be going downwards. So I'll fold over like that. And then it makes a V shape, hence valley fold. And then for the next one, I'm going to alternate it and do a mountain fold. This is the opposite. This time, the point of the fold will go upwards like the tip of a mountain. So this time, let's get that score line and fold downwards along it, like that. And then this time, that's made a mountain shape. So if I put those up, we've got a V to start with, and then a mountain next. And then we'll go back to valley fold for the next one. So this one, the point of the fold will be at the bottom. Next time, it will be a mountain fold, so the point will be at the top. And then continue alternating until the whole thing is folded. So my next one will be back to valley, then mountain, and so on. When you get to the very last fold, that one should be a valley fold. So that's a good way to know that you've got it right and you've alternated correctly all the way, because your very last one should be a valley. And now we've ended up with this concertina shape. And if you sort of fold it all in now, it will all go on top of itself and you'll end up with something that folds in like that. All right, so next we're going to attach all of the little pictures. We need to alternate picture 1 and picture 2 as we're doing this. So first, choose the one that you want to go on the side that you'll see that way. I'm going to use my red butterfly and get the first of the red rectangles. Then go to your other image, the second one, and get the first rectangle and place it next to it. And then do the same for the second of the first picture, then the second of the second picture, and keep going until you've got all the bits in order. It's much easier to stick together if you've got all the bits in front of you in the correct place, rather than trying to glue them on one at a time and then realising at the end that maybe you haven't quite got them all the right order. These are going to go slightly off the screen for the last few, but that's okay. All right, so we're not going to glue the thin rectangles at the start and the end. Those are the tabs which will hold our Mirage design in the frame. Instead, we're going to start on this second one here. Flatten it out. Get your glue, or you can use double-sided tape. Add the glue. Try not to go on the score line itself where it's going to fold. And then stick your first rectangle on to there. And then we're going to go to the next one, add some glue. And this time it will be that first segment of the second picture. Put it in there. And then keep building up until all of them are done. I'll just show you one more of each. Then I'll pause my video to go and finish it. So this time it'll be the second segment of the second picture. That's what I've got, and then I'll continue to do all of the rest of them. The glue is now all dry on my Mirage topper, so it's time to get it all made into a finished card. I'm going to fold it up again just to get those score lines all going the right direction. It will be quite stiff and hard to do because of all of the pieces, and if you've stuck your pieces a little bit over the score line like I've done there, then it will probably need a little bit of wiggling about to get it to fold. And then we end up with them all together. Push it down and brayer. Oops, that was loud, sorry about that. Okay, and now when I let go, it should keep it all a lot closer in together. All right, so we can have a little look already. This is going to be so hard to show on camera. You can see it that way and that way to see the different pictures. Okay, so to start with, get the tab on the left and add glue. And then this will be stuck to the bottom of the left side of the topper. So you can either do it like this or turn it upside down. line the tab up. So that score line, that first valley fold, goes along there. Like that. And then the other one will do the same thing. So the glue will go this side, next to your final picture. Squish all the bits in. It's a bit of a tight fit, and you might need to squish all the little concertina bits. Don't worry too much if it goes all a little bit weird like this. We'll fix that in a moment. For now, just get those tabs stuck on. And there we go. All right. So now get these looking a bit more even. Didn't stick that very neatly, did I? Pull it around a little bit before the glue dries. Okay, so give it a little wiggle so that all of your triangles kind of end up the same width. It's looking nice and even, or it was until I picked it up. You see the triangles down there. Okay. And then turn it over. Add quite a bit of glue to your outside edges of the frame. And also go over those tabs. And then we'll also run the glue down the bottoms of the folds, the creases that come out here. It's a little tricky to get it in place. I'm going to go down all of those. I'm trying to work quite quickly because my glue dries fairly quickly. And get the base card. Turn it over. Stick it in place. Sticking the outer edge first, getting that all lined up. And then gently push down to get those bottom bits stuck. And you'll probably want to hold this in place, both hands on it, until the glue dries, or you could put something on top, just not too heavy, or you might end up crushing the triangles. I'm going to keep my hands here for a couple of minutes until that glue is dry. You can take your hands off every now and then just to check you've not accidentally moved the triangles around. I have a little bit there, mine aren't quite all the same size anymore, so before that's dry, correct that. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate and even. My Mirage card is now all dry. Let's take a look. You can see the picture that side and then tilt it round and see the picture that side. This one does seem a little bit easier for the eye to make out than the other one. You can definitely see when you hold it this way round, those two butterflies. Maybe this one was a little bit too sort of similar with those two butterflies. A less busy image may have been better, but you can still make it out. And then that one, and that one, and keep going round. I could play with this all day. So there we go. That is our Mirage card. All finished. I love that when someone takes this out of the presentation box, they'll look at it and be like, I don't understand. What is it? But as they start playing about with it and moving it round, then it all starts to make sense. I hope you enjoyed making this Mirage card with me today. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and card making tutorials. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 7 of the card making countdown, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!